So welcome to another exploration into consciousness with the Earth Novel Hub. And today we're asking the question, what is driving us? And whilst that question came from an incidence of, no, I don't want to call it road rage, but from an incidence where I jumped the red light and I've been offered a course, a correction course, where they're going to teach me, obviously, not to do this anymore. And I really enjoyed the way they phrased it, because the course is called What is Driving Us? Looking at the behaviors of the drivers on the road and how we can obviously stop going beyond the rules. The one thing I want to say right now, I've seemed to have, over the last couple of days, problems expressing. Slow down if I can't find the words. There's something going through it. Actually, start. How are you guys doing since moved into Gemini on the 23rd of May? Has there been a difference? Has something changed for you?
Yes, I can tell you that for
What is
me,
driving you now? Yeah, go, Mary.
life has just speeded up unbelievably.
Oh, that's dangerous.
It is, yes. It really does feel like I am in the fast lane. I can barely keep up. And I didn't realize we'd moved into Gemini on the 23rd at all. Just one thing after another. Now, it's all good, but it's really testing me to keep all the balls in the air, you know. And I did get really tired at one stage, but I'm okay. I have recovered again. Also, I must tell you that since we moved into the 23rd of May, I welcomed a new little granddaughter.
Oh, beautiful. That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah,
That's
she
going to be
arrived the 24th. Her mum went into labor on the 23rd and she arrived on the 24th. Yeah.
Congratulations to the family.
Thank you.
Very exciting. So speeding up.
Oh yeah, speeding up at a rate I can barely keep up with. But I have to say, I find it very exciting. I find this fast energy exciting. Can you hear me, Martina? Because I think you're freezing.
Would you say
Maybe
that
it's
is
my
more
phone, is it?
congruent?
No, I think, Martina, at your end, your connection is
Yeah, there's something wrong, Martina, at your
slowing.
end. Yeah, I thought it was me. I thought it was my phone, but you seem to be freezing.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. Is she hearing us at all there now?
No, she probably has to go to the.
So open the door. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Yeah, you were just freezing, Martina, whatever it was. Yeah.
You know, this is so interesting because, you know, I was breaking up. As you're talking about speeding up, what I usually do when something speeds up, I slow it down just to mediate and to balance it back out again. And obviously my internet immediately caught up to that, to slowing down, to balance, you know, that. I was just going to say, you know, with the speeding up, just ladies, watch out. Please do not jump red lights, because it's going to give you 3 points in the UK and the fine of £100. All right. If you're not invited to a driving awareness course, then, you know, it's not going to take long and they will take your license away. Speaking for myself, of course. It's not going to happen. So, Gary, tell us. My question to you was, as the energy is speeding up for you, would you say it is more congruent to who you perceive yourself to be energetically?
Yes, yes. I was saying to you, but I don't know if you heard me, that I love the fast energy. I love living in the fast lane, but I have to balance it. I know I can't survive in the fast lane. I have to balance it. And I'm good at that. And if I'm not good at that, my body will just simply do it for me. It will just simply take me out of it. Like I did get very tired and I slept so deeply. I actually felt like I was comatose or in paralysis. I was totally, utterly gone, for a lot of hours and didn't hear a thing. And in the morning, like I could barely move my legs in the bed, and I thought, oh God, what's happening? But it was the balance. I just find this fast energy exciting, but that's just the way I am, I suppose. So I don't know. Do I have any more things to say about that? Really, there's not a whole lot more I can say about that. I think it's interesting that you broke a red light at the start of what we were talking about, because that was congruent with my experiences, because I don't know how I haven't broken red lights. I probably have, metaphorically. I think I have, yeah.
Many of those.
Yeah.
I think all of us who are on this call, and probably the ones who are listening to the replay as well, are quite familiar with jumping red lights, going against the rules and everything. But, it is so against our intuitive way of living, driving, eating, doing everything. We're starting to do so much more intuitively because, as I said earlier on, at no moment there was any harm done to anyone. There was no honking, there was nothing. So when I got this, I couldn't even remember that I did it. I was just lucky it wasn't a speeding fine, because they wouldn't have offered me a course for that. So, and also it just shows to what length I go in order to create topics for our shows, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I got that course saying what is driving us, I thought, that is such a cool question. And of course, we're going to take it beyond, jumping red lights. So what is driving us? What is driving Mary to all of a sudden perceive that speeding up of energy, of living? What is driving that?
I don't know. It's the events, I suppose, Martina, that's happening around me, first of all, that are giving me the reason to speed up. And in that speeding, like you with the course that you did on the driving, you were sort of, I suppose you were invited to look at other drivers on the road and see how you were with them and how you related to them. I think you mentioned that somewhere as part of the course. And I found that interesting because in the speeding up, there was an awful lot of requests on me for comment, for communication, for an update, and it was like, oh my God, I can hardly keep up with this. And it was like, how do I do that and still mind myself and still keep myself centered and still be aware of myself in it? Because speeding up in itself is fine. I do drive fast actually as well. That's another thing I do. But in my car. I'm talking now metaphorically as well. The speeding up is fine. It's just that to watch, I suppose, how we are in it and how we manage our own space in it and how we manage our own center. I think that's always central for me in it.
Yeah. And one of the things, as we are all beginning to allow ourselves to be driven more intuitively, from that place that doesn't necessarily concur with all the man-made rules, we're going to start having probably issues with authorities. And that's obviously something I needed to look at, because this is not the first fine that I've received. So, it's like there is a resistance to authority. And of course, you can, take that and follow that energy back all the way to our upbringing, but not necessarily just this lifetime. Because remember, everything at the moment happens at the same time. And, if you look at the news, or if you look at now news is probably not the right thing, but it's authority is being questioned. Authority is being questioned big time, and it's being replaced by authenticity.
Absolutely.
All of us have. I love that, because, you know, that journey that we're on is a journey away from authority towards authenticity. So what's driving us? What's driving you? And what comes up? Just want to ask that question. And then I have a little something to share, but what's driving us? Or a change into what's driving you? What comes up? Just blurb it.
I suppose off the top of my head, I suppose this isn't without going deep. And I know when I do this, I will end up going deep. But there's something about movement, excitement, happiness, changing the scene, change of people, change of energy, dipping in and out of different energies. Again, back to excitement. There's an awful lot of excitement. And I think that's one of the things that sort of drives me. I want to stay in that kind of whirlwind of excitement and movement and, you know, back and forth, in and out of it. But there's a deeper energy and a deeper searching in this, actually, which I need to think about. I don't know what it is just yet, but I need to think about it. It's probably too, I suppose, movement on the journey as to where we're going, you know.
Anyone else who wants to speak to that?
For me, it's curiosity, plain and simple. It has always driven me. Curiosity on how, you know, how this happens, how this is, and why this is, and then, you know, everything that comes with it, you know. And I love to be in the flow of things, because that is which is what I noticed when just about when we came into the full moon. I had one day where here at the office, everything was just flowing. We were in it. I have done in that whole day probably more work than I did in the last, you know, 2 weeks, in a sense. And in the evening, I came home and I felt like, wow, great. Thank you, full moon. And I really thanked her, because I knew it was that whole energy, you know, building up to the full moon. Now that the full moon has arrived and we are already in the waning, I am blocked. My neck is blocked. My shoulder is hurting. Everything hurts. I'm tired. I'm stressed out. Yesterday I got, because I am in a sense an authority figure here, I got into a lot of entanglements with people who were not following the authority as they were supposed to. Because I mean, here it's procedures, you know, I have to apply procedures. This is my job. So we are applying procedures. If somebody's not applying procedures, I have to go after them. I cannot, you know, spend my time on having nice Zoom meetings with them, but sometimes it's just a call like, could you please get your ass moving? Okay. So yeah, and so I woke up this morning with a blocked neck. Is it surprising? None at all. But still, my curiosity is what drives me. Yes, you were saying.
Yeah, I just want to say this, like inhalation and exhalation has to happen, no matter what kind of, no matter how slow, how fast we are. Inhalation, there's always an inhalation, which is positive, which is male, which is electrical in nature. Inhalation, it contracts and it attracts. So as you're at work, you are in your male inhalation. You're attracting, you're contracting, there's tension because you're creating, you are electrical, you're also very fiery. Yeah. Now, don't ever forget the exhalation. You're jumping because you're fast, you're jumping over beyond the exhalation, which is negative, which is feminine, which is a letting go, which is the expansion. So whichever situation we're in, be this now in that expansive situation where nothing happens, or that tense, you know, like, whoa, there's so much happening, we always need to bring the inhalation and the exhalation together, because it's that shunya, that still point in between, that really creates. And of course we're exhaling, but when we start looking at that from a more conscious perspective, and it doesn't mean that you have to sit for hours and breathe. It's just like, oh, am I actually exhaling? And as soon as you, I think, remind yourself of that, it just levels back out again.
Sure.
Lana, what's driving you?
I don't really have a answer at the moment for what's
Okay.
driving me. There's lots going on around me. So weather-wise, so I think the weather is driving me.
So you're being driven at the moment. You're being the passenger.
Yeah, being the passenger. So whatever the day unfolds, you know, because it changes from day to day, then I follow through with that, whatever it is that's driving me to do what I need to do for that day. And I try to keep a balance about it, you know. Don't overwhelm myself. Don't try to get too worked up by all of it, because if you get worked up by it, then it drives you crazy. So you have to take it easy.
Do you want to give that a word? We've had excitement, movement, curiosity. Do you want to add, I don't know, is it allowance? Is it acceptance? Is it something like that? Balance.
It's allowance, I guess, close to allowance, you mean. And then again, it's not allowance. It's just living in the moment. You got to live in the moment.
So all of that, if you think, you know, what you guys mentioned, excitement, movement, curiosity, allowance, being present, being not present, being in the moment, and all of that, there's always this tension and expansion, this tension and expansion. And I suppose what's driving us, it's often more the tension that drives us. You know, if I go back to the road and me jumping the light, there must have been some sort of will tell me that. And I haven't had the course. I'm going to have the course next week, but I'm already expecting being told that I was thinking of something beyond the light, and I was obviously not paying attention. And there's an element of that, because I probably wasn't present. But then again, how many times, you know, think about it, how many times the car just drives and you're just the passenger, right? Whilst you are actually the driver. Because, you know, there's something to intuitive driving. And I think that's a whole other conversation. But I like all of those things that you've, I want to add something, and I want to sort of support it with an experience that I've had whilst I was in Austria. I was walking to my sister's house, and on the way there was a sign which was saying horse whispering. And I thought, that's interesting, because I've been wanting to talk to horses for some time. You know, I've been told that I had connections with horses and things like that. And I've never sat on a horse or anything like that. And I thought, even more interesting, that it would have been something I'll be doing in German. So it's a different kind of energy behind that too, you know. So I did book a session. And whilst I didn't have anything, because usually when you go to these sessions, like, you have a specific issue that you want to resolve. So I've come there with a huge sort of umbrella perspective, saying, you know, all I can say is I'd like to just have some impressions, inspiration, you know, for a new project. And, you know, maybe there's a little bit of impatience or something like that. So based on the conversation I've had with the facilitator, she put a couple of words down. And what she did, she just took a piece of paper, and every word that she took down was 5 words. One was impatience, one was community, because I said I don't want to work on my own anymore and I love working in a community. One was the role of myself as a generator for ideas, organizer, that kind of thing within the community. And then there was the part for the new. And then she also put down fear, which I put there in German, because fear in English does not do anything to me. So I thought, okay, well, let me use Angst, and see if that makes a difference. So blah, 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 long story short, as soon as I walked into this place, it was on a ranch where she had her horse accommodated. As soon as I walked into that ranch, I already started feeling really calm. Not that I was tense or anything, but there was this sense of space as I walked in. And then I met the lady, and there was this horse that stood immediately. She came out of where she was, and she stood at the door, at the gate. And the lady said to me, she said, "Oh, that's my horse, and seemingly she's the one who wants to work with you." So that horse immediately came out. And I thought, well, that's normal. And she said, "No, that is not necessarily normal." And I said, "Okay, cool." So we took those words, and I had to put them down into that space. And then she said, "Step on one of those." No, that was after. So anyway, so she said, "Okay, let me bring the horse in." And the name was Fortuna. Beautiful horse. And she came in. And as soon as she came towards me, I already had an emotional release, and I had tears coming down. And it was just space. And she told me afterwards that was the time when she could have stopped the session, because we were finished. And I said, "Well, I'm glad you didn't, because I paid God knows what for that." And it was like a 5-minute situation. She said, "No, but that was where it's already finished." And that was such an interesting comment that she made, because we've talked about this on these shows 1,000 times, how fast, Mary, how fast we are. We are just, the body just makes a choice, creates a solution, an idea like this. And then it's for us, the rest of the hour I use to just work backwards, what actually happened in that split second when that horse came in and I had my release. So what was driving me in that particular situation? It was purely an intuitive reaction from my design, from the soul level, I suppose. There was no ego involved, probably, depending on how you want to define ego, there was probably a fortified I am, which came in afterwards. So, but just to put that to the side. So what's driving us is not necessarily something that we can pinpoint, because so much of it is just natural. So the horse comes in and just goes over and starts eating grass. And I'm like, okay, so she's ignoring me. That was the first thing that I said. She's ignoring me. And that's quite an interesting comment of mine, because how many times in my life and other lifetimes have I felt ignored and rejected? And then I thought, no, let's not go there. She's not ignoring me. She is allowing me that space that I am. She's actually matching my space. And I stood, and she said, and then the facilitator said, so go and walk on one of your, and I stood right in the middle where I had put down my role. And my role, because everything that we had discussed early on was completely blown out. There was no angst, there was no impatience, there was no nothing. So all I could do is I thought, let me stand in the middle on my role, which then became my I am. And it was just beautiful, because I had no thoughts, I had no ideas about anything. It was just space. And Was that facilitated by the horse? I would say so, because before I had the meeting, the actual meeting with the horse, that was not necessarily the case to that extent. So it was that space that was driving the whole facilitation at the end of the day. Now, the next couple of things that happened was she said, okay, so take the horse and the halter, walk around and go to the various places. And we walked over to Fear, and she didn't even, I didn't feel anything. You know, I was asked if I said, I feel absolutely nothing. The horse just walked by. Then the horse walked up to the new project, whatever I was considering, and just walked away. And then, long story short, the most of the time was spent in the triangle of community, my role, my I am, and that impatience that she had put down. That was a word that she had used. Now, that energy didn't work for me at all. It wasn't impatience anymore. Whilst I could appreciate it in the beginning, impatience had completely transformed into connection. And what I can now say, which I probably wouldn't have said before, with more clarity, that what's driving me is connection. And I want to almost say what's driving mankind, what's driving consciousness, what's driving energy is connection. And everything else just wasn't important anymore. And when I looked at impatience, I mean, when you feel connected, or when I feel connected, be that now a person, the cat, the flowers, the plants, the trees, the purpose, me watching something that I am feeling excited and curious about, like you ladies were saying, there is no impatience, there is no angst, there is no need for a new project. There is just everything, like Lana said, in that present moment, because you are completely connected. And the horse then stood with me. This is where she stood for a bit longer and allowed me to stroke her. And that was it. And that concluded, the session was finished. There was nothing more to do, because it all happened in the first 3 minutes when that horse walked in. But it was that connection that she showed me. And you know, I've had that connection. We all have that connection many, many times when we look out for it, but we sometimes look too small. We look at the people, at the partners, at the children, at maybe the people we work with, you know. We are so beyond looking at that. We are here, all of us here, especially in our groups, are here to connect humanity, to connect into a new community, to connect, you know, with the mountains. I had this in Peru, you know, where the mountain was talking to me, saying, don't think small. It's not your husband, it's not your child, it's not that. Connect to me, connect to the stream, connect to all of that. But then again, you know, when you have a horse standing there, it's got eyes and it breathes and you can feel the heartbeat, it's easier to acknowledge the connection than when you're talking to the mountain, and you probably start thinking to yourself, I've gone now crazy, like everyone else is saying, you know what I mean? So it's that having some connecting with something that breathes like you gives you more of that, let's call it validation, you know, that this is really what's driving us.
I mean, let's call it really relation, because that is what you did. You related to it. And that is the whole point of, you know who we are and who we are getting into with. It's, yes, there is a connection, but the connection is just like, you know, it's like a connection. Then it's not necessarily something coming out of it. It's the relation that at that moment you're building up with it, wouldn't you say? I mean, because then once, you know, it's the whole point about we are not anything but our relations. our nervous system, our whole system is like that. The whole system is just a relation, you know, it's something that is a system. So as soon as you connect, yes, you connect. That is like the physical or the spontaneous action in a sense. And then it's the relation that is being built up where we can then, even if it's electrical, and I mean, like you just beautifully described, you know, you sense the heartbeat of the horse, and that was a deep relation, because it wouldn't have let you touch it, you know, it's, if it would not have allowed you to be in relation with it, because that is one thing that horses are very good at. Donkeys even more, actually. So
Love donkey.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah. But that's the old thing. I mean, the old thing and the new thing, because, you know, nothing exists outside of relation, connection, in isolation. Nothing can exist. And I think the invitation, what drives us, the invitation, especially in those new energies now, is stay connected, stay in relationship. And I think I'm glad you mentioned relationship, because relationship, the way we've known it, and the way we always hone into that one particular relationship, family and this and that, it's got such a bad trip, such a bad name, you know. We need to go, and that's why I prefer using the word connection, because you know, it's a bit like love. I mean, I can use connection instead of love as well, because love is so bastardized on so many levels. But connection, I can still fit in. That's spacious enough for me to be, like Mary says, you know, to speed it up, and then at the same time I can, because that's what I did there, you know. As much as I'm so fast, I completely slowed everything down. But what I did, and this is an interesting one maybe for you guys to look at as well, if I think about it now, I'm saying I slowed it down, but at the same time I expanded it out. And that makes me think of the Taurus now. If you think about, you know, it, the both sides of the Taurus, where it goes in and out and in and out and expands in all different directions. So if you have an issue, whoever says, oh, I can't slow down because I just love being fast, you can still be that, because as you just breathe out and expand, you're actually expanding out. It's seemingly slowing you down, but it's actually not slowing you down. You're just expanding out. Because think about it, there's a limitation, and now it's like the tension, because I can't breathe, I can't breathe. There's this connection between slowing down and expanding, radiating out.
Yes, I love that, what you're saying there, Martina. I can just feel it. I can feel all of that energy of the expanding out and the slowing down all at the same time. And that's probably what's actually exciting for me. I find the combination of that quite exciting.
It is, because there is this perception, or that, yeah, the perception, that knowingness, that excitement, but not coming from a place of overthinking. It's not excitement is not
No.
overthinking. It's coming from this place of remembrance, who we really are. And what if we are now starting to allow ourselves to be driven by that sense of knowingness? And it's a bit like, if you remember, guys, you know, in the beginning of COVID, we all had the permission slip to just be, right? Because we couldn't get out, we couldn't this and that. And you could obviously take this example and kill it in so many levels. But what I'm saying is, you know, there was a permission slip for the people that knew that do was not necessarily the way to be. And just allowing ourselves to breathe in and expand out. And the energy that we're in now, we don't need a virus or whatever that was to give us permission to drive our vehicles at our speed, the speed that we want to drive it, without rules. And what if there is no need for lights, for traffic lights? Because there's an intuitive knowing. And sometimes, you know, we can get off the road and use little countryside roads and then just drive with whatever the road allows you to drive at. But if there is a highway, well, why don't we just drive faster? We've created highways for that.
And as you're saying that, Martina, I suppose I'm just getting a visual kind of the highway, the internal highway and the country little road, and what it's like when I take both of those. Because on the highway, I suppose, you know, you meet an awful lot of traffic, you meet an awful lot of other vehicles, you meet an awful lot of other people, and the energy is different. It's a different energy when you're on that as to just kind of wandering slowly on a country road. And a country road leads you to go slower somehow. It has that sort of invitation, hasn't it? It's windy and narrow. And I'm just wondering about those highways and country roads within myself.
You know, Mary, remember in the beginning, Lana, Sandrine, you went there when we talked about a lot. We talked a lot about the vagus nerve and all the things that all the knowingness that we accumulated through the work with AB. And he always called the vagus nerve the superhighway of our consciousness, right? Because it's like spirit coming in. And then when I did the shows with him, we talked about, you know, that superhighway being lots and lots of roadworks there, and roadworks there, those were the limiting beliefs and you know, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic and all of that. Now, if you think about it now, we've been doing this work. We're not just coming in here talking out of our asses. We've done the work. We've done the bloody work of getting rid of our limiting beliefs and of our, you know, the limitations. We've done the self-healing and the self and the sovereignty work and God, I can't even remember now because it's been such a long time even. So everything is just now that highway is cleared. And yes, there will always be little bits, and we have to be careful, the little, you know, squirrel running over our roads before we cross and all of that. But why did we do all that? To keep on driving like old ladies? Let's drive our vagus nerve. Like, let's drive on that superhighway that we have cleared. We've cleared all those traffic jams. And as Mary says, depends on which road you're on. But then again, that's a choice. You don't have to keep on going onto the congested roads. There's always different little roads you have to take. And
each of them, sorry, go on, Martina.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say each of them determines a different type of connection. You know, if you think about the superhighway, you're joining the fast lane, you're looking at all the people going fast and everybody seems to be in a hurry and they're all enjoying this. But if you join the country lane, it's a different type of energy you're choosing to engage with at that particular time. And I like both, you know, I do like both. I don't go on the fast lane, I suppose, as in the highway as much, literally now, literally. I mean, I do like when I go on it internally every so often myself. But I didn't like, as I said earlier, just to balance it out with the country lane. Yeah, somebody else wanted to say something there. Was it Lana?
Sandrine.
Sandrine.
Yeah, it was actually more in line with what you were saying. I noticed that especially okay, when you're young, you always want to be on the highway, right? Because it's fast and you want to live on the fast life. How much I appreciated actually going into expansion and using the little side roads, because you know what? They are much more interesting. You can discover so many things, you know, even just around the corner. Suddenly, you know, I was just the other day, I had to use another way through a living quarter here, and it was just like, oh, that shop is over here. You know, it's like I've never thought of that. It's like you're discovering also things when you are actually taking either the side roads or the little roads, and you're seeing different things. And so that's, for me currently, I really enjoy the going into this expansion, and also, if I'm speaking metaphysically, the expansion of further what is driving my curiosity, and then actually also, and I think at one stage I need to stop with accumulation and getting really into the expansion of what I have accumulated and applying it. I'm already doing it in a sense, but I mean, just really like literally like, okay, funny example. I watched over the weekend to calm my head, I watched Dune 2. I'm a big fan of, I listened to I know the book. I am a big fan of Dune 1, the original. The remake I watched then again because I thought, okay, let's just get into the flow again to then watch Dune 2. And you know what? After half an hour, I got so bored with that movie. I was like, what is all the hype about? There is nothing new in there. There is just regurgitation of what we know already. There is no remaking, you know, making it more interesting, because it's like, what are you trying? You know, I didn't get. Okay, it's as usual. Everybody's in hype, and I'm like, I don't get it. Could please somebody explain? And I think it has to deal with the fact that I have accumulated so much, like also not reading crime novels anymore, because it's like, why should I read the 1500s and fifth one to find out it's the butler, you know? But in a sense, it's like we have seen it all, or you know, you have seen it all, you have experienced it all. Give me something new, you know. I want to all this hype for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I was like, okay. But no, you see, and this is also where I think that the expansion and the curiosity for me is like, okay, what is new there? You know, what will still, some newness is coming, and I have plenty of it. I just wrote this morning a text like that to Martina about electricity and energizing seats, and you know what all the megalithic structures are about. I'm like, oh.
But this is the energy. This is the energy that Mary's also talking about.
Yeah,
and Lana mentioned a lovely, you know, going with our road metaphor. She mentioned the roundabouts, right? That they're using to take the lights out. But, you know, we can use that roundabout analogy for what Sandrine was just saying, because sometimes it's okay to just go round and round and round the roundabout. And that could be that exhalation as well, that trial and error. And of course, trial and error is what? Is experimentation of living. And what is that? Experience. And I feel at the moment, and this is why I said earlier on, my words are starting, it's getting better now, but sometimes there are just no words, because it's almost like the invitation is more for experience now.
But haven't you also noticed
Almost like,
go ahead.
Almost like, let me just finish that one second. Almost like, you know, coming from that being that we earlier discussed into the doing again. Do you find like that? There's more action going on at the moment. I'm booking stuff and I'm like, whoa,
Yes.
what's on here?
Yes.
But that doing is no longer the old do for the sake of it. The new doing that I've seen this as well while I was in Austria. It's like the being is included in that.
Yeah.
Everything that I've learned, and even though I do not have to use words to express this because I don't have the words in German anyway, and they wouldn't want to know it. So I had to just be it. I had to just be it. So, but there is a doing. I have to do and be at the same time without having to express it. So the teacher is going, the teacher is blown out. And it's coming back into the experiencer of it all. And this is where it gets really interesting, because we're all driven by different experiences. And we all create different experiences. And this is where it gets so exciting again, because as we are allowing ourselves to be driven by our beingness, we're experimenting with experiences that create specific energies. Let's just call them energies that we can then share. And it's like, this is becoming a puzzle where really we're not, regurgitating other people's stuff that we've heard. We're still doing that, but that's okay. But it's now starting to be tinted by our experiences, Do you perceive that? Do you feel that too? That's coming through so much for me. And that's where sometimes I lose the words. And I was trying to write something that, no, I'm looking at frequencies. I'm listening to sounds that I'm not a musical thing. I don't listen to music usually, but now it's like, it's not music because there are words in it that are distracting. I just want to listen to the sounds and watch the frequencies. So what are we driven by? By our own frequencies. And this is where, we're going backwards again. Okay, we're all water, H2O, it's all frequency, right? And yes, we've heard that years ago, but all of a sudden, I personally want to experience it more. So I did go to the charity shop today. I was just thinking, let me experience it. Let me look at the people and see if I can see their frequency, not their mind, not their soul, not their spirit. Just let me see the frequency. How do they sparkle?
Which reminds me that tonight when I get home, I'm gonna do some sound healing on my muscle, because that is really helping. But there is one thing that I wanted to pick up on. Have you also noticed, because it ties in all of that, how we are maybe out of words because also people are just putting themselves in front of you and they are asking 101 questions in 5 seconds, and you're like, what is actually, I have that feeling that really people are coming up and then one question after the other. Yeah. I'm like, to which one do you want me to reply to, And then you're like out of words, because it's like, whatever I'm going, where do we start? Which one shall I do the prioritization of your questions, or are you going to help me out here to actually give you the question that the answer that you need? Or maybe you're going to, somebody is just asking, and then like, oh yeah, okay, and then you're like, good. You're done. But I have found out lately that so many people are just asking question. I'm like, what's with all the questions? What's going on? Why? I'm usually always being asked questions because as I say, I'm Madame Irma, I can look into the crystal ball. I usually also have the answers because I'm a know-it-all, right? I'm that bloody Aries that always knows all. But, and I always give you an answer, or I try to. Which then puts me into, a jiggle. You're like, how do I actually answer all your questions? But it's just something that came up lately for me a lot. This amount of questions, that are coming up that I find. And then when people ask me, it's like, what do you want to ask? And I'm like, nothing. I have no question. Because I'm more in the experiencing. You see, it's like, I accumulate through my curiosity, and then I'm trying to experience it or digesting it. Like I'm using it in my language. So I'm like, okay, no, I have no question actually. And if I have one, then somebody comes up with it. I'm like, yeah, that's another idea to go to follow along.
So have you looked at the reflection? What
I looked at the reflection.
what all those people that have questions, what are they reflecting back to you? Because there's a slight incoherence here. Because if you're curious, then it means that you have.
Yeah, but usually they are through their questions.
There's no curiosity without question.
Oh, this is people...
Just to put the energy on that. Yeah. And of course, the next level to that is all these shards that are coming and integrating with you. Are these the ones that have a lot of questions that you haven't acknowledged yet? That is then reflecting it out into your environment for people to ask questions?
No.
No? Okay.
No, those are not these. It's more generic questions.
No, I know, but I'm using the question as a metaphorical representation, as a reflection. So because there's so much coming in at the moment, there's so much of our soul essence coming in, not into the body, but projecting into us. And they're all curious, right?
I found it interesting what was happening in me when Sandrine was talking about the questions. Because initially when you started to talk about it, Sandrine, I felt, yeah, there are an awful lot of questions. Yeah, I definitely can identify with that energy. There's an awful lot of questions around. I think as well that I have a question, a big question, but I'm not sure what it is. I don't actually know what it is, but it was something about, there was something in what you said that got me, I don't know, caught up in it in myself and what was happening in me about the questions. And I started realizing that, I have questions, choices, they're sort of kind of similar for me. And I was kind of thinking, okay, sometimes I think, what will I listen to? Because I love listening to recordings, or, when I'm driving the car, if I'm doing something in the kitchen, I play something on my phone. And even that, I think when I just pull down my phone and I look at all the different YouTubes that have come in, and I think, God, which of them will I listen to? They're all so interesting. Which one do I want to hear? And then sometimes, I actually pick the one that you would consider to be the most unenlightening of them all. Like, where is Kate Middleton? Have we not
Where
seen
is she?
Kate?
I asked that same question to Martina. She couldn't tell me.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen to that. And I think, yeah, I enjoyed that just as much as if I listened to Brian Cox talking about the universe. And that is true. That is true. And yet they're completely different topics there, So I do find that there's a lot of that around, and it's about the choices around the questions and the choices that I make, and the choices for me are all equally as exciting, whether it's considered to be nonsense, rubbish, or whether it's considered to be mind-boggling universal stuff. It's still all exciting. It's still all worth listening to. And I don't know what that's saying at the moment, but I do need that little bit of trivia in my life as well.
I'm fully there on with you. So when you know where she is, please let me know. Okay.
I'll let you know. Yes. Yeah. Well, you see, it isn't trivia either, because it's what it represents. And I think that's what hooks me into that. I just think about, the deception and the feminine and how it's disrespected and the value of the feminine. There's so much in all of that that's far from trivia at all. And I think that's what gets me hooked into it, because I suppose there's something in that as a woman, I can resonate with on some level.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
I
Anyway,
also think
I don't want to go down that road. Sorry, Martina. Go on.
no. We can go down any
Well, I
country
don't
road.
want to go down the road of
Oh,
where's Kate.
well, I could
Where's
this.
Mary? Let's go down that road.
Where's Mary? But the thing is also, I think, it's all about pattern recognition, really,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I see, like, I posted this one, my boots standing on this round little
Rug.
carpet rug, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I walked out the kitchen and it hit me, thinking, oh my God, this is so significant.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, oh, I just took my feet out and left them there. I didn't place them or anything, but when I walked out, there was this significance, because I was looking at, there's nothing linear, right? And there is one step at the time, but we never look, are we actually going round? And there was the roundness of the rug, right? But the one step at the time, and that was that connection. It's trivial, but it immediately connected me into the bigger picture. And this, I always love doing that, because I find things that remind me of the bigger picture. So, and now I'm starting to see things, just like, when we're talking about frequencies, when you look at the clouds, what do? You look at the frequencies. If you look at one of those Lucia lights, we've done Lucia lights, is very much like that frequency thing. And there's this one guy on Facebook at the moment, David Schiermeier. Yeah, it's just brilliant. He just takes a video of, there's obviously a lot of blah, blah behind it, which I never look into, but I just love looking at the frequencies. And this is exactly like the Lucia light that we did in Barbados, right? And then again, we are Lucia lights. This is who we are,
Yes.
and everything is connecting now. The micro is connecting to the macro. There's no direction as such, but and this is starting to become so interesting. So what is driving us? Sometimes it's the trivial things that we find, that we watch, that show us the bigger pattern of the universe.
Yeah.
How the laws of the universe are connected, and how we're starting to intuitively, naturally, are drawn and driven towards the natural laws of the universe, away from the man-made crap that seem to work, not really, but that we've all been indoctrinated with, I don't know if anyone watched the Terrence Howard, Joe Rogan.
Yes, I've watched most of that. Yeah, fabulous.
It goes so beyond of working with your belief system. Am I deserving, or am I naughty, or have I jumped the light because of my mother being authoritarian, or something like that? It's because everything's wrong. The physics are wrong. Math is wrong. How can it be? But this is so exciting. That excitement drives me, because people are waking up to that. Even this David Schiermeier, he's been doing this for so many years, and nobody even looks at his shit. Since people are starting to comment watching these frequencies, because they're starting to wake up to their own frequencies, knowing or unknowing. Now, there's another thing I want to mention. We talk about country roads. Yes, A, B, A, B, A, B. Choice A, choice B. Choice C, girls. We're creating our own highway. We're creating our portals, right? Let's not just get focused on the country roads or the congested narrative, but actually let's look at the portals. We're world bridges. We're mediators. We're celestial mediums between species, between dimensions. So we need to talk portals. What's driving us? We're driving. I just gotta go. Okay, Mary, thanks for being here.
Bye, Mary.
Yeah, sorry, I have to go. Somebody again at the door. Sorry.
No problem.
No worries. Bye. Thanks for being here. So that's the other thing, to expand it out again. And there's a lot of portal talk at the moment. You guys
Well,
come.
I mean, now that you come up with the portals, it's like I actually tie this all to the questionings, you know, it's because I am this mediating person, you know, that all these questions come to me because I somehow try, you know, and I somehow will, or most of the times, find the link to actually connect then the people to what they are looking for. It's not that my answer is probably more like, you know, putting them back on the road and, you know, getting them into the connection, or I'm saying, okay, you can find that bit information here, or I'm like, you know, why don't you try that in a sense, you know, whatever. So this gap bridging is something that is very, very important. And I also apply that a lot to my professional life, in a sense that, because that's what we are in a service, you know, in the service providing business, in a sense. We are closing gaps. We are trying to bridge gaps, in a sense. If you cannot really close them, then try to bridge them somehow, or enable the people to actually help them cross over or cross, you know, do that. And on the portals, I mean, I listened also to the one that you shared this morning with me on the portals. I loved it, just listening to it, and I'm still not.
Okay, Lana. Lana will be right back.
Okay, so well,
Do
back.
you want to share what Bashar said?
Well, okay, first of all, I didn't understand what was going on until I was like, okay, okay, so he's asking questions to somebody who's channeling that entity.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, okay, so this entity, but he was also quite impatient, the entity.
Bashar. So we're talking about Bashar. Bashar is very black and white, and get the fuck on with it, you know.
Okay, good, because I was like, okay, yeah, the question I had to, you know, like, move it on, you know, move along. What do you actually want to know? So I felt I understood Bashar in that sense, because it's like, okay,
I know it could have been you.
Yes, I'm like, okay, what do you want to know now? So no, and I liked his. I'm still not so very convinced. Oh, I'm the multidimensionality, and yes, I'm just for myself. The connections to the inner earth, yes, absolutely, because I think this is very important, and this is where a lot of our, you know, harnessing the energies of this planet comes from. It's for me the outside still. I still need to somehow find the link on the outside, the off planet. But this is just because what I'm with all the megalithic structures, and also that some of them are actually also representing what we see above, you know, the Orion belt, or, you know, Sirius and all that. There needs to be a relation. Why otherwise would that have been important to actually represent it like that? And why was it then also constructed right on top of magnetic or electrostatic conducive? Why is that so? You know, so because our planet was then probably also connected with these other stars, you know, because at one stage they were probably all one, as we know. So there is still a connection there. So I'm probably just replying to my own question, right? Yes. No, you see, I don't know. There was no question.
We were just bridging until Lana got back.
That was the intermission.
So no, let's just, if I remember correctly, there was a question about portals, and the way Bashar explained it to this guy, I thought was quite nice, because he used the different dimensions.
He used a different dimension. He used the point. He used the circle, the sphere, the ultra.
Okay, well, so he said, for the first dimension, you know, it's just a dot. Second dimension, you've got the circle. You go into the third and the fourth, you've got the sphere coming up, right, as a portal. And then as you go beyond the fourth into the fifth and beyond, then you're talking, I think he called it hyperspheres or something.
Yeah, he called it hyperspheres, and there somehow he lost me a little bit.
The interesting thing is, with a hypersphere, you know, which, you know, we can all access, because this is where the infinite possibilities, because the guy was asking, so, you know, if there's a portal, how is it defined? If I go through this portal, do I get out the other end exactly where I'm thinking, or how do I know where I'm going? You know, that kind of thing. And when you go beyond, when you really take your multidimensional into account and work with yourself as a hypersphere, but also with your environment as a hypersphere, then it depends where you walk in. It depends what kind of consciousness you're at the time as you are past the portal. This is where you're going, you see? And this is quite interesting in terms of, because all this outer journey, like you said, Sandra, takes us back to the inner journey. Because, you know, the level of consciousness is depending on our inner journey. And also, you know, I almost think we don't need to waste any particular thought on where we're going to go, as long as we work on the inner journey and we fortify our I am, and we are nicely, you know, fortified and
grounded and centered,
coherently aligned between, I would say, the mind, the heart, and the gut. Then, you know, there's this place of, you know, curiosity, excitement, but also that place of uncertainty that doesn't have to be uncomfortable. That trust.
This is exactly what he also picked up on. He said, we are in the now, and that is where the now is. You know, that is exactly where the now is. So you don't have to open any portals. Like when you're in the now and you want to be on planet X, Y, whatever, and you want to drink a cocktail there, well, then you are there.
Yes.
Now, because that is what you want to do now. So when you're able and capable and have that sensibility, you will do that.
And this
maybe only a part of you, maybe one of your, as you always put it, you know, one of your charts is going to do that, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe not the one here, that entity that is currently that avatar here, but it's one avatar of you that is there and is having a drink at, you know, the bar.
Absolutely.
So I want to make I want to say something here, a similarity you're talking about, because when you think it, you're there, right? I think our dreams teach us that, because when we're dreaming and then we think about something, we find that we're there, right? Does that happen for you? Because that happens for me in my dreams. If I'm in a dream and I'm thinking about something, then I'll suddenly find myself in that place or position that I'm thinking about, and everything else disappears. So I think our dreams are teaching us how to do that. We're just not getting it yet in our reality that we're living in.
I'd almost, it's a very good example, Lana. And I'd almost say it's two different things, because in the dream space, you're literally in the singularity. Yeah, it's so easy. You're there. You are there, like you say. You are there, because there's a singularity, there's no duality, and all of that. It gets more difficult when you got your feet on the ground, boots on the ground in 3D, and you're sitting here having a Zoom, and at the same time, you are aware that a part of you is on Sirius giving a lecture on how to grow potatoes. Because that is exactly the same. That is a possibility too. But you as the avatar, it's your responsibility to be aware of that. Or let's say it's a capacity for you to be aware of that, because you want to be, control is not, you want to be in connection with your hubs of interconnectivity everywhere, so that you know where your energy is being distributed at the time. So you don't want one of your charts fucking off, you know, and I don't know, some wild goose chase somewhere in the astral world, and you are actually getting depleted by your energy here. And this is where the coherence comes back in, the mind, gut, heart coherence. Because you see, the thing is, the more we have cleared out our emotional turmoil, the more our astral body, like the dreaming body, like you said, Lana, the more our gut is able to make connections, to generate connections that are conducive to what this avatar wants to create, without going off off-piste and doing its own thing. Because then the heart can come and actually expand those connections. The heart doesn't make the connections necessarily. The heart expands and contracts as the muscle that it is, as the torus that it is. We always talk about the heart is the most important thing. Well, it's not, because if the solar plexus hasn't actually created connections through a balanced equanimity, then the heart will contract. It can't expand out properly. And that's why we need our head, our mind, because the mind needs to work with the gut. Because when we do the clearings, the sovereignty work, the self-healing and all of that, that is the responsibility that we have. And that doesn't come from the astral body by itself. It comes from the mind, from the higher knowingness and the wisdom that we have accumulated, that is necessary. And then we need to work, all of that needs to work together. And that's part of the multidimensionality that is coherently created and safe. Because, you know, Lana, we've talked so much about, going off in the astral world during our dream space. And there's the singularity, and we get lost in all these different dreamtime societies and go there and heal all these bloody people. No, we can't do that. And that doesn't go away. It's still there. Energy cannot be destroyed. It's all there. But we have to make choices in dream time and in awake time not to get entangled anymore. And our multidimensional responsibility is now that we rein in our shards, parts, aspects, and say, no, you're not doing that, you little rebel there. So as long as I have my authority issues in this lifetime as me, boots on the ground, I probably have a shard that still thinks can play rogue over there. So I blame it on the shard.
Thank you. I mean, I cannot control all of those crazy chicks. I mean, come on.
Can't control the uncontrollable. No, but we can create the connection.
But
Yes.
Sandrine, you could be a sexy man somewhere else too.
No,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know.
I've met him.
I am.
I've met him.
Or a Chippendale dancer somewhere on another world.
Yeah.
So what was the question?
I have no idea.
No, forget it. There was no question. No, there was actually none.
What was driving us? What is driving
Yeah.
us?
What was it? Well, yeah, that's the question. What's
No,
driving?
yeah, well, that is the whole, yeah.
What's driving us? A joy. I love doing. I missed you guys last week because I love being with my peeps. Where we can
Well,
have
I'm gonna miss you guys, the 3 weeks I'm gonna be,
3 weeks. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. It's gonna be the whole June, so it's gonna be
Yeah,
tough.
you will be well connected, and we expect you to come back, and we'll do a Zoom on that, and you give us all the goodies. So make lots and lots of notes.
Well fortified with all kinds of information when you come back.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and also with all those crazy others that I'm actually sharing that.
You'll have some fun. You'll have lots of
Mm.
fun. We'll be tapping into you. Yeah. So what's driving us? Okay, so that's a question I've written down, because obviously, where this whole thing comes to.
I want
So
to come back before you go to your question. I want to come back to the roundabouts that I
yes,
mentioned.
please.
I'm thinking I'm not a fan of roundabouts because it confuses the heck out of me, but I'm getting used to it now. As I pass by roundabouts, I'm learning more about how to navigate a roundabout. But it's one of the things where I think it's becoming a useful tool to remove the lights from the being there that becomes a trap to many people, right? Or maybe it's not a trap, but it, like for you example, Martina, if it caused you to be in a position where you felt like maybe your free will was being violated, even though you were being careful. So bringing in the roundabouts, right? That eliminates that whole violation of man's free will, where it puts us back in a position where we take control of the moment that we're in. And so the flow that, like Sandrine had said before, we know what we're supposed to do. Man knows what he's supposed to do when he's in a situation, in a position, not to create an accident, not to be in a position where you're involved in troubles with your neighbor on the road, right? So to me, that's probably something that is a useful piece of introduction into our society now. That's being helpful.
Yeah.
So eliminate that.
Yeah, well, certainly. Yeah, I mean, look, it's I think roundabouts have been in the UK forever. I can't remember, but when I left Austria, that was like what, 20, when did I leave? 27 years ago or something, 28 years ago. They didn't have roundabouts at the time. But as you're speaking, Lana, I'm actually thinking, talking about the trivia in terms of what's happening on the roads as such, and actually linking it to the bigger picture. If you think about it, what you're just saying is actually metaphorically such an interesting perspective, because, we're talking from straight lane, there's a light, stop. It's like very much against who we are as a frequency, right? Because everything is like round, and everything is like round, like the roundabout,
Yeah, because it's stopping the flow, the
Yeah.
frequency to flow. And if you get to a stop sign, you have to come to immediate stop. If you don't come to immediate stop, then you're violating, and you get into trouble. Now, even if there's nobody there at that light, you still have to stop. If you're there at midnight or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, there's absolutely nobody on the road. You still have to wait and wait and wait until it changes. But a roundabout, you get to the roundabout, you come to the yield sign, you only have to do pay attention to if someone else is coming, and you have to yield to that. Otherwise, the frequency, the flow of your energy keeps moving through. And you think about a stream of water, right? It's like a stream of water just flowing.
Absolutely, the vortex, right? And we talked about the sphere. We talked about that a hypersphere. It's like a roundabout. You could look at it as a hypersphere. You've got all these different exits,
Exits, yes.
It's like, and this is probably why, as a human, you feel more comfortable going around the roundabout than rather than being on the linear road and then have to stop with the red light. Or not, obviously, as some.
Well, we have to retrain our mind how to use the roundabout. Because that's what gets me. It's the confusion when you get there. But once I start to retrain my mind, I'm getting used to the idea, because there's more and more being put in everywhere. And so the flow keeps going. You just have to know how to follow the rule of the roundabout.
And that's such a profound statement you've just made, that we have to retrain, because basically that's what we will have to do, as all those man-made idiotic rules are starting to be abandoned eventually, and the natural universal laws and rules are being more applied to how we live. We will have to retrain. Absolutely. But then, it will eventually start feeling much better, like it's now feeling much better to go a roundabout. There's options, and if you fuck it up, okay, well, you do another round, that kind of thing, instead of that, authority, stop right now, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very good way of looking at it. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, okay, so one more question. I've got a question here. What's driving us? Motivation beyond regulation. What comes to mind when we say motivation beyond regulation? Because this is probably something that motivation, even though I don't like motivation that well, but that just fit together somehow. What is it gonna take to be driven by motivation beyond regulation? And how can we do it without controlling the controllers?
Well, to me, when I think about that, when you think about you're motivated, right? And you are being driven to go beyond the authority of um, the moment that you're living in. Now, when you're driven to move forward, the flow keeps going, right? In the roundabout, you're not stopping. You keep going, and as you keep going and going and going, um, you're moving away from that frequency of the authority figure, right? That has been um, holding us to its stranglehold for so long, right? Um, and when we move away from that and we keep flowing, then we find ourselves in a different frequency, a different layer, and the authority has not such a strong stranglehold on your knowingness anymore, right? So you are shifting away and out of the very strong 3D whole that been holding on to humanity for so long. And
Yeah.
so, and this is why I think we're beginning to see the lights being removed and the roundabout being put in. What if the lights are still existing in a lower third dimensional stranglehold, but we have shifted to another layer of dimension that we are seeing an upscale, to say, right? And we have shifted into where there are roundabouts, where there are not so many lights anymore.
Yeah.
That says you must stop here, no matter what time of day or night it is. No matter if there's traffic or not traffic, right? You have to follow the rules. If not, you're in trouble. So to me, this is shifting our knowingness to a higher frequency already. And the signs, we're beginning to see the signs, the symbols of it.
Yeah.
It's the roundabout.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And then obviously also looking at the roundabout as a portal is the next level where you can literally get out of this reality and get into that reality that you have created with the rest of the people that have chosen the same sort of path. And that's basically where we're going. And in order for us to do that, that motivation beyond regulation has to be through connection again. And that leads us back to curiosity, to excitement, to movement, to being present. All of the things that we said, which is all part of the energy of connecting. Because in order to go through that portal, we have to feel the connection first to ourselves, but also the connection to others, because we don't have to go through the portal by ourselves. We can go with our friends, with the community that we are talking about. All these communities that we are building, where we were going through those portals, through those roundabouts together. And then all that motivation that is still required turns into a form of trust. And that trust is actually a focused presence. So
I
there's
came up with the word mindful responsibility.
mindful responsibility, yes.
Because you have to be mindful and you have to be a responsible individual using the roundabout. Otherwise, if you're not, you will create an accident, right? You have to be mindful of your neighbor coming to look left, right? You have to keep looking left.
Mindfulness.
Otherwise, you know,
Yeah.
you will run into your neighbor.
Yeah. And again, that's maintaining the connection. Absolutely. I was already through the portal. So sorry, I'm back at the roundabout now. I was already up there. It's just this one thing I wanna mention about trust, because also that lady who facilitated the horse whispering mentioned James Trust to me. James Trust technique is a technique that has been created by James Trust and his wife, I think, or partner, where they're working with animals. They're meditating with animals, basically. And by being completely present with them, those animals stop their overthinking and begin to trust. So what they're doing is they're focusing they're going into this meditative state, the facilitators, but not, getting knocked out, but just becoming completely present. And then projecting that presence onto the horse or the animal, the wounded animal, or, the abused animal. And that animal becomes completely relaxed because of that connection, of that trust that is being transferred. It's a completely sacred, neutral state. Now, why am I saying this? Because it works with trust, presence, and if we want to continue on that journey, then we have to learn to have that presence, that trust within ourselves. And when we say ourselves, it's not just the Sandrine, the Lana, the Martina here. It's, of course, the trust between all of the shards, and, aspects of ourselves. We always have to bring the bigger picture in at this stage and then ground it back into this reality. And again, I'm not a big fan of this grounding business, because I have a body, I'm breathing, I'm grounded. So for me, it's more like, that's why I love the idea that we don't need gravity. I just love that. But anyway, that's a completely different story. Watch the 3-hour video and with Joe Rogan and Terrence Howard. And by all means, there's so many videos out there already who talk about hoax and all this. Use your own discernment and get a sense of what you're perceiving. Pick what works for you, just like what I am, what we always are suggesting with what we are presenting here as well, because it's merely our own point of view, coming from experience and experimentation with life. And I think on that note, I'd like to have Sandrine and Lana maybe do a closing statement, and then we're just going to close it for today.
No, absolutely. And which is one of the reasons why I so engage and so looking forward each week also to actually share, because it is the sharing of our point of view, and then also, again, the experience that we have with it, and also, again, driving further our curiosity, and just picking up on the ideas from everyone else. Like, okay, I know now in the back of my mind and in my subconscious, there are many things that are just going sparkling all the way to talk to my shots that probably doing whatever. But no, it's which is why I like this forum. And here we have a connection and we have a relation, although we are miles apart again, but there is something that is happening, and that is just wonderful. I think we should just really tap more into that technology.
Thank you, Sandrine. And Lana, before you go out and start collecting your trees.
Well, I like what Sandrine was saying about, we're all so far apart. And I was thinking about that just this morning, and yesterday, how the connection that um, the technology now that has been brought into our consciousness, how helpful it is that, I mean, we're all strangers to one another, but yet still we're friends now, because we can make that connection much more easily, and we can come together once a week and share our thoughts. And I enjoy coming onto the Zoom and listening and sharing my thoughts, and hopefully it's helpful to someone else who might be listening to it. So, like I said before, we have to be mindfully responsible, um, living in this world, in sharing our thoughts.
Thank you.
And that's really something beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is. And let's remember the joy and
the love.
And the love and the connection and all of that. And enjoy your roundabouts. And I see you. I see you next week. Okay. Okay.
Bye,
Bye.
girls.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for your contribution. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Welcome.